Do I think that it would be wonderful if social media platforms and other entities did offer things that were child safe? I think that would be fantastic. And I think that the fact that they don't screams out that they're not in our favor.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. So many times when a new platform becomes the cool thing or a game is making the rounds, it would be great if there was one place you could look to see what was needed to immediately put protections in place, what conversations to have with your kids prior to them playing so to keep them safe, and just like this sort of like basic roadmap of path of best safety. And you guys, I found it. I found him. He's the keeper of the roadmaps, and he's here today to talk about all of it. As an ex NSA cybersecurity expert and the former chief technologist for a $10 billion IT company, he has over 30 years of experience. And he's a dad. He is a friendly and calm face that is guiding so many parents during this path of parental digital navigation. Welcome to Healthy Screen Habits, Ben Gillenwater.
Thank you very much, Hillary. Appreciate the very kind introduction. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, Ben. Your name kind of really says it all in your platform. You are the family IT guy. And I can't tell
Yes.
you how many times I've wished for an IT department in my own house. So
Yes, I could
what?
understand.
Yeah, right. And what led you to become the family IT guy? How did you get here?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like to sort of tell people that I've spent most of my career focused on national security and corporate security, and now I do family security and family IT. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I gave my son an iPad when he was 5. And it's ironic to me now, looking back, now he's 9, that I did that. But I did. And I put YouTube on it and games on it. It didn't even occur to me at the time that that would be problematic. But of course it was. He found all the stuff on YouTube. I was like, oh boy, okay, hold on. Let me take that off. Let me put on YouTube Kids because it's called Kids. And it didn't solve the problem, actually. Like the YouTube Kids platform, he found nightmare stuff, he found sexual stuff. He had nightmares for years with the stuff that he
Mm,
found on there.
I'm so
So we had to pull
sorry.
YouTube Kids off the
Mm,
iPad. And then it was left as like, okay, it had some kids games. How bad could it be? It turned out that it's still very addictive. It was affecting his sleep. He was waking up early to play it. He would come home, walk in the door, go straight to the iPad. It was disruptive to his routine. So we took away the whole iPad. I'm like, damn, I darn it, I gave my kid drugs. I didn't even know. He has a device now, but it's a watch. It's an
mhm,
Apple Watch, and it's all locked down because Apple has these great screen time controls, and he can only receive and make calls to people that are on the list that I control.
mhm,
And so it's this really nice like emergency device, and then he can use it to listen to music. And so, if it's that tricky for me as an expert in the field, how hard must it be for people that are not experts in this? And so, after talking with a bunch of people about it, other parents, and people started asking me for advice about what should do for their kids, I looked into it more and more, like, okay, this is an area that needs help. And
mhm,
so, since the beginning of 2024, I've worked almost nonstop on preparing myself and preparing resources on how I can share my experience with parents and translating things that are very technical into very non-technical means. Like how do I deliver technical concepts in a way that anybody can digest and actually use to help their kids stay healthy while they use these devices and use the internet?
mhm. And I have to say, you're so good at it. I mean,
Wow, thank you
and
very
I do
much.
not say that lightly, but
Thank you.
I am so excited to be sitting here having this conversation with you because I have actually had people contacting me saying, "Hey, have you heard of this guy? Have you
Oh, no way.
are you talking to the family IT guy?"
Ah,
So, I
wow,
mean,
that's
it's
cool.
no, you are resonating and hitting people exactly where they need the most help. And so,
Amazing.
of course, like, getting ready for this conversation, I sit down and I peruse things and I look through things. And your website is fantastic. And
Yeah,
part of your superpower, I think, is not that you're relatable as this IT guy, because quite frankly, I think there are very few of those out there
yeah,
who we can actually understand. But you do
yeah. No,
have
that's
this,
true. Yeah,
like I said, this like superpower of being able to kind of break things down into very easily comprehensible chunks. Also, just this fact that you're a parent yourself and you're doing it, and like you disclosed, you're struggling your own self.
yeah.
Do you have areas currently of, I mean, without disclosing too much personal information, what are the biggest areas of friction surrounding tech in your own family unit?
I mean, so there's certainly some of those things, and I'm happy to talk about them because I think that it's very important. One of my personal values is vulnerability. I think it's very important for me to be vulnerable as I do my work in this space so that people can understand that like I'm going through the same stuff, even though I have expertise and I sort of know what to do, it doesn't mean that it's easy. And so, for
Mhm.
example, I think that kids, of course, follow and model the behavior of their parents, as well as their friends and other people they interact with, right? But certainly their parents. And so, how do I, as a parent, behave with my phone? And how do I behave with my screen time? And how does my wife do the same? And so, it's not easy because these things are designed to be addictive explicitly. And many of us as adults and parents require these devices for work. I do, for sure. I have lots of devices that I use for work, but like my phone is certainly one of them. And so being very cognizant of how I spend my attention and how much of my attention I give or is taken by the devices that I use and the systems I interact with, and how does that balance with how much attention I give to my son and how much
Mhm.
attention I give to my wife? And so that's something that comes immediately to mind when you ask about that, because I want to just highlight that that is not easy. Even though I'm constantly aware of it because I'm involved in this 24/7 professionally, it does not make it easy. And so, but it's something, it's an ongoing effort, and I'm very intentional about it as much as I can be every day of the week, every moment of every day.
Oh, I think that is extremely admirable. I strive to have that level of awareness.
Yeah, well, I
Uh,
tell you, and there's tricks involved with doing it. I have my device set up. I have a bunch of settings in place to make my phone boring,
mhm.
and I have a bunch of blocks in place where I have to undo those blocks in order to access social media when I need to do stuff for work.
So you're the cybersecurity expert, and I am a child development person. It is unfathomable to me. I'm looking for clarity, and I don't even know if this is, if you're going to be able to help me understand, but I thought, I'm going to ask, right?
I'll do my best.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So, as a child development person, it is unfathomable to me to understand why platforms continually develop apps that are dangerous or harmful to kids explicitly. And I know the obvious answer to this question is profits, but I'm looking, I guess I'm digging deep and I'm trying to find hope for humanity here. Are there reasons that you're aware of other than just putting profits over people that big tech has failed to protect our most vulnerable users, those being our kids?
One of the things I've been exposed to is that what gets measured gets done. And incentives are very, very important to focus on. and to look at like what are the incentives of a third party that we're going to engage with. And so always, of course, any commercial entity, it must put profit first because it cannot survive if it doesn't. And so what mechanisms can it use to achieve its profit goals? And one of the things that Facebook taught the business world is that attention is one of the most valuable things that a software platform can have because the internet is very much, it's mostly free in air quotes,
Mm-hmm.
in that instead of exchanging money, you exchange your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And when you exchange your attention, the company that receives that attention can learn about what causes you to stay and then can serve you ads as you stay. And then that's how they monetize the air quotes free tools. And so I also like to think about the fact that anybody outside, I'll just speak for myself personally, anybody outside of my family is absolutely not responsible for keeping my family safe. That includes people that pretend to desire the safety of my family. I find that to be a false premise. Anytime a stranger pretends to be interested in the safety of me or my wife or my kid, I'm immediately like red flag. Like they do, and like, what are their incentives? And do their incentives match mine?
So, what do you think? This is going a little different direction, but what do you think about um, laws and legislation like the Kids Online Safety Act or like the Childhood Online Privacy and Protection Act that actually did get passed last year? Kids Online
Yeah.
Safety Act got shut down right towards the end of the year. Do you think there is a responsibility of big tech to provide a basic level of a do no harm type protection?
Short answer, no. I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't,
wow. We disagree completely, Ben.
which is fantastic. It's
Oh,
actually
yeah,
like my
yeah, yeah.
favorite thing.
No,
I
no,
love
I'm
it.
enjoying this. And
Having,
go
yeah,
ahead.
I love exploring ideas with other people, and this will be really cool to do. Okay, so the laws. What gets measured gets done. The measurement, the incentives of laws are to maximize the votes that the politician that enacted the law will get at the next voting cycle. That's the primary measurement. So and votes are given based on the success of that politician's marketing campaign, which is based on their ability to maintain positive perception about how they're doing their job.
Uh-huh.
But there actually are no actual measurements of like these, like none of these laws have measurements that I agree with that say like these are the outcomes that should occur. And we will know if the outcomes are occurring by measuring the following metrics. And if
Hmm.
they don't occur, we're going to cancel the law. So these things become permanent. Every every bureaucracy, including the US, is primarily interested in growing itself. And
Hmm.
so each new law grows the bureaucracy and grows the regulatory environment and always has trade-offs. And so, like a lot of these privacy mechanisms that want to identify the age of a kid
Hmm.
then requires identifying the age of adults too. And it's a big privacy problem. And privacy is something that requires trading convenience and even sometimes trading security. And this is where the personal values things come into play is that I'm very privacy focused.
I think I come from a place of having spoken to too many parents of dead children who feel
Yeah.
very strongly that had there been just a basic filtering or a basic, an alert or anything, which I know there are private companies that you can employ to alert you when your child is looking at something, but there are other platforms that have been kind of hijacked by backdoor type I'm talking about Snapchat specifically. Snapchat had
Oh,
they
yeah.
had a whole problem with like with backdoor apps coming in and not
Yeah.
being, and social media by design does not allow for monitoring and filtering on any of like the bark, the
Yeah.
any of those
Yeah.
things. So I think that there are too many ways that parents are basically blindfolded and don't have the
Yeah.
ability to know what's going on. But this is
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
your website and your services excel, is
Yeah.
keeping families safe. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about those pitfalls and pillars of protection that you have.
Okay. And can I offer a quick note
Sure.
on just to clarify on the my position. Do I think that it would be wonderful if social media platforms and other entities did offer things that were child safe? I think that would be fantastic. And I think that the fact that they don't screams out that they're not in our favor.
Mm.
And so I kind of like how loud the problem is because it can become obvious when you look at it that way.
Diving into the world of smartphones can be a wild ride for kids and parents alike. Whether your child is getting their first smartphone or has had one for a while, chances are they're still figuring out the do's and don'ts of using a smartphone wisely. Our book is here to help. Healthy Screen Habits for Tweens and Teens, a training workbook to help you use your phone wisely, is the tool your child needs to navigate life in the digital world. From tackling poor phone etiquette to addressing social media anxieties and online safety concerns, we have your child covered. Written especially for adolescents, we've put together all the information, tips, hacks, and rules to ensure that your child's phone is a useful tool that they control, not the other way around. We explain the whys behind the rules of phone use. We show your child the possible traps and dangers to watch out for, how to prevent them, and how to fix them if your child has made a mistake. We give your child the 5 core healthy screen habits to use daily, protecting them from some of the worst mistakes tweens and teens make while using their phones. This workbook will teach your child how to use their phone as a tool to help them do great things in their one amazing life, and it will make your life so much easier at the same time. Packed with colorful graphics and easy to read content, this resource is a game changer for kids. Don't miss out. Buy your copy of Healthy Screen Habits for Tweens and Teens on Amazon.com today.
I'm speaking with Ben Gillenwater, the family IT guy, who is instructing us on all things big tech, security, etc. today. And let's get into kind of the areas that you find are the biggest areas of pitfalls or pain points for most families.
That's a great question. There's a lot to know. There's so many things. And so if you're to prioritize those things, how might you prioritize them? And that's one of the things I focus on helping parents with. And so I like to group this larger problem set into 3 buckets. And so the first bucket is blocking harmful content. That could be stuff that is damaging to a child's mental health, or it could be stuff that is inappropriate, like perhaps, porn or sexual material. And then the second bucket is screen time. And that is very focused on addiction mechanisms and how addiction affects people and how it very strongly affects the youngest amongst us. And when our brains are the least developed, they can also be the most impacted by addictive substances. And then finally, the third bucket is preventing stranger contact. It's preventing stranger contact at internet scale. So there's 6 billion people on the internet, and a lot of platforms connect one to everybody. And so when your child goes on certain games or certain systems, they are immediately exposed to that level of scale. And there are as far as I can tell, it seems that there are a percentage of people on the outliers of whatever the bell curve is of like average humans that are intending harm,
Hmm.
and many of which apparently are intending harm specifically to children. And so when you expose them to internet scale stranger contact, the risk becomes higher than you might think because of the quantity that even those small percentages of 6 billion people, like what that represents. And so blocking harmful content, limiting screen time, and preventing stranger contact are kind of the three ways that I bucket my work into.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and on your website, you refer to them as the three pillars, which
Pillars. Yeah.
I always like a construction analogy. I think it's easy to hang thoughts from, and that
Yes.
whole idea. We teach this also. This whole idea of the internet as a place, rather than being just because so many of us still, as digital immigrants, our children are digital natives growing up within this time, and they have move with
Mm,
this fluidity and speak with a fluency that as a digital immigrant I will never have.
that's funny.
And
I like that
so
term.
yeah, yeah. And so, and what, like oftentimes as a digital immigrant, you kind of still think of the internet as a thing. And we need to shift that and recognize that the internet is
Mm,
a place, it's a space that people
mm.
are operating within. And I
Yeah.
was having a conversation with somebody lately, and they were saying, yes. And actually, the internet as a place is even more dangerous than, say, I'm in Southern California. I always use the example of taking your 7-year-old and dropping them off on the corner of Hollywood and Vine at like,
Yes.
11:30 on a Saturday night, which
Oh my God.
if you by themselves, right? Now,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you're in New
exactly.
York, it would be Times Square. If you're, I mean, fill in the blank of wherever the least
Yeah.
desirable part of town is, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm not meaning to throw shade on Hollywood at all, but it's nowhere
I
where
mean, it's
I,
special,
I
Yeah, it's a special
think
place.
you understand what I'm in for. Yeah, yes, what I'm throwing
Yes.
down there. Anyways,
Yes.
but what this person said, and I completely agree with, was she said, but here's the thing. If you saw a 7-year-old by themselves on a street corner at late at night by themselves, you as a mom or as a, citizen, you would
Yeah.
automatically be like, "Hey buddy, what's going on? You okay?"
Yeah.
And you'd
Absolutely.
already enact that kind of community protection. But in the internet place slash space, we don't even have that because
Yeah.
it's just a one-on-one. There's no
Yeah.
person that's coming in as a third party saying like, "Hi, do you know this person?" Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
So
That's
I
right.
I think that was an interesting kind of add-on to the internet as a place for me.
That's a good point. I like that. And it's interesting too about the internet as a place is that you can't see it with your eyeballs. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a big part of our brain that can't process risk. We can
Yeah,
look out in front of us and see, oh, that guy across the street, not going next to him. Oh, that person coming next to me, let me kind of scoot over here. Oh, there's a dark alley, not going down there. You can't see those things. And if you're a
right.
kid, you don't even know that that's the dark alley versus the bright alley as you wander through the internet.
Right, right. So what are your areas of greatest concern, right, as the security expert? I mean, is it privacy protection? Is it AI? I mean, putting your dad hat on, like thinking
Yeah.
because most of our listeners are parents, like
Yeah.
what are the areas of greatest concern for you
Mm,
as a parent right
yeah.
now?
Oh, great
In our
question.
digital
So,
world, we can go
yeah,
on in the
man. So there's
Ah.
two. Um, it's the first one is addictive algorithms.
Mm.
The primary place we see those is in social media. They occur anywhere that you find a feed of content. And
Okay.
so,
So can you tease that apart for us?
yes, definitely. So I'll offer an exercise to everybody listening. If you take out your phone, well, which you currently might be using to listen to this, and open up Instagram, it'll open up to your main feed. If you look at the bottom of every post, it tells you how old the post is. So look at the first post. It could be a couple days old. The second post could be 3 hours old. The third post could be 2 weeks old. They're not time based, right? They're algorithmic. They're
Mm-hmm.
based on what the algorithm, what the computer system thinks you're going to want to see next and what you're going to want to spend the most time and the most attention engaging with. Now, at the top of the Instagram app, if you tap on the Instagram logo and you go to the following feed, that is now a time-based feed. That is not an algorithmic feed. And you can tell because you look at the bottom of every post, the first post is the most recent one. The post after that is the next most recent one. So it'll be
Mm.
15 minutes old, 22 minutes old, 27 minutes old. It's way more boring. You can tell just right away, way less interesting. And you can see, I use that example because Instagram is one of the few apps that offers the ability to switch from algorithm to time-based.
Mm.
And so I really recommend that people look at that. And then from this point forward, every time you look at Netflix, every time you look at Facebook, every time you look at TikTok, every time you look at YouTube, recognize that those are all algorithmic. They are designed to keep you, they are designed to addict you. They're designed to drip dopamine into your brain so that you like being there and that when you're not there, you want to come back. So that is the first thing in order of priority. That is the number one thing in my mind that if parents only focused on one thing, it would be addictive algorithms because that's the thing that is causing a massive mental health crisis. And I'll give you the second thing, but I'd like to quickly throw out there that I stumbled across data that really impacted the way I think about this. I was looking for anxiety and depression statistics, and I came across a World Health Organization death certificate database. And they've been tracking death certificate data since 1951,
Okay.
and they offer it for free on their website. You can go look at this yourself. So I pulled the data for the US for young people aged 0 to 39. The age groups between 10 and 24 specifically had a, as I charted them out, had a very distinctive pattern. And it is as follows. In 1951, 1 in 100 deaths of people in the age group of 10 to 24 were self-inflicted, suicide. In the 90s, it was 1 out of 20, it was 5%. In 2012 until 2021, which was the most recent data, it increased to 1 in 5, 20%. The primary causes of death amongst young people right now, first are automotive accidents, second is suicide, third is homicide. That's both boys and girls, ages 10 to 24. And the chart that I drew, I plotted social media platforms and smartphone releases along the chart, and it directly correlates to this gigantic spike that went from 5% to 20%. So addictive algorithms are top of the list. These things are dangerous. It's like giving a kid drugs, literally. Okay, the second thing is online chat. That's the exposure to strangers thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the medium that predators use to engage with children in order to hurt them and take advantage of them. And it's very unfortunate because I love the idea of connecting with strangers. You and I have never met in person, and here we are. We get to have this fantastic conversation because of the internet. But online chat is dangerous. It's a high risk medium for communication. And so I like parents to be aware of those two things, addictive algorithms and online chat.
Okay. Okay. Um, how do you stay relevant with what's coming at your son? Like how I think,
That's a good question.
Ben, I was gonna say, Ben, I gotta admit, half the like I would say 80% of this podcast is for selfish reasons, totally. And
Amazing.
it's
That's the best
and
way.
because I'm like, oh, I got all these experts. Now I gotta no, I'm gonna
Heck
ask what
yeah.
I need to know. And
Yeah.
I'm in a different stage of parenting than yourself.
Mm,
I have older kids, young adult
mm.
and older kids. And it's very it's very difficult for me to see what's coming. That how do you stay relevant? How do you see what's coming?
That's such a good question and such a truly challenging question. It's okay. So the short answer is that that's why I work based off of principles. So I work based off of concepts. That's why I talk about these conceptual addictive algorithms and online chat and the three pillars, blocking harmful content, limiting screen time, and preventing stranger contact, because these principles can apply across all technologies. Now, AI is unique, and you mentioned that, and we can talk about that separately because it is its own thing in a way. But I think addressing, working from like a first principles, meaning something that we all agree on, something that like is underneath it all, that is not a question that like nobody disagrees about.
So almost
So I
a
like to,
value base. Is that
yeah,
what
yeah,
is
exactly.
that okay?
Exactly.
Okay. I don't mean to put
Yeah,
words in your
value
mouth.
and the concepts that drive like the underpinning the incentives, like we were talking earlier with like should the companies do this or that? Should the governments do this or that? What are the incentives underneath? We're very intentional about not setting the precedents that we don't want to see. And so I'm not getting him another device
Mhm.
until a long time. I'm not going to give him access to social media. Now, okay, sure, that solves part of the problem. What about when he goes to his friend's house? What about when he goes to other places? What about when he goes to school, which is insane to me that this is part of the problem, but it is because they give him a Chromebook and they created a Google account with his full name attached to it and didn't even tell us.
Oh, yes.
And then the principles come into play. And so what we must do there, and what we do in my family, is we are very transparent and we expose him to things that I'd rather not expose him to. And I tell him about problems that exist so that he is aware that they're there and that when he comes across them, he's able to identify them. And then it's up to him and how he has absorbed our values and established his own values as to how does he respond during these experiences. And that's challenging as a 9-year-old boy. Like, there's not a lot of good decision making going on when stuff is right there, when the drugs are right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, wouldn't blame anybody, myself included, for just grabbing them, but so we're just ongoing. And I take him to events, I take him to my lectures. He's 9 and he hears police officers talk about sextortion. He
Mm-hmm.
hears me talk about it. Exposing your kids to the realities, I think, is very effective. I've had a very beautiful experience through my videos on TikTok and Instagram and in person where people say, I showed your video on Roblox to my 7-year-old. And it's like, hey, I made that video for adults, right? Like in terms of the way I was speaking. I
Right.
showed it to my 7-year-old and now they get it and they don't want to play.
Yeah.
I've had
And
I've had that happen like 10 times.
yeah, and somehow it's because a lot of times we just become as parents, we just become like the Charlie Brown teacher voice, right? I think
Wah,
our
wah,
kids
wah,
hear
wah, 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 that thing.
exactly. Our kids hear our voice so much, they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this guy is talking about it. And it's like when you're
Yeah.
outsourcing, it does, it's
Oh, it does. That's
yeah,
so
it
true.
has it
It's so
has
true.
great power. Yes.
Yeah. Like so find your local, so PTAs, the parent teacher associations, are often hosting events of the nature that I'm speaking about and the events that sometimes I speak at. Find those events and consider taking your kids to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I would love that. And as far as you're talking about instilling that baseline understanding of your own family philosophy on technology, I'd just like to point out, I know you have tools on your website. We have a free downloadable template as well called the Family Tech Plan that's meant to be a
Nice.
conversational springboard that takes you, just kind of leads people through a conversation of like, what's the role we want tech to have in our family? Where does it belong? Where does it not belong? And it just kind of,
Yes.
and it's meant to be a living document because at different ages and stages, it means different things, right? So,
Absolutely. Change it should change
yeah.
probably at least annually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. So we have to take our second short break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask Ben for his healthy screen habit. Need a fun school assembly that provides research backed content, actionable tips, and great presenters? Look no further. Healthy Screen Habits presents digital wellness material for all ages in developmentally appropriate, interesting ways that encourage kids of all ages to make good digital decisions, create lasting healthy screen habits, and learn safe methods of dealing with sketchy content. We have assemblies or in-class visits for all ages and stages. Give your school the best foot forward on digital wellness by reaching out to us at healthyscreenhabits.org. Click the Book a Speaker button and let's chat. I'm speaking with Ben Gillenwater, the family IT guy. And Ben, on every episode of the podcast, I ask for a healthy screen habit. This is going to be a tip or takeaway that our listeners can put into practice in their own home. What's yours?
Oh, yeah, like that. So if you don't mind, I'll give you, similar to what I've done so far in the conversation, I'll give you a concept one and then I'll give you like a concrete one.
Sure.
So the concept one is taking time off of tech as a family and intentionally labeling it that. And so I like this really easy moniker is like Tech Free Tuesday. So on
I
Tuesday,
love an alliteration.
right? Yeah, it's great. So like it sticks in my head. And so, so for example, Tuesdays, you come home from work, your kids come home from school, your devices, if they have their devices, they go in the drawer, they go away. They go in a room that's not where everybody's going to be. And they stay there until the next morning. And the whole tech-free Tuesday, when you get home, it's like family time. But even if you do that for an hour, anything more than 0 is so impactful because then you can look back and be like, wow, what was that like? And you can really feel it. And when you do it for a few hours, it is a huge change. It can really jump out. So I love it. It's a very positive activity to practice. And there's intentionality there that the kids get to see. So that's the concept. And then the concrete one is a technical thing that I'll throw out there as a challenge for people that's effective. It's a DNS filter. So this is something I have a background in network engineering. This is a thing that network engineers are familiar with. And if you go to my website on familyitguy.com and you type DNS in the search box, there's a whole description because it can be lengthy. And so I'll kind of just be very brief here. But consider a DNS filter. It's a very effective way to filter harmful content. And you can do it at your router level for the whole house, and you can do it on each device, and you can configure the adult filters to be different than the kid filters, and even one for each kid if you have multiple kids. So those are the two things I'd like to recommend.
I love it. I love it. I feel like if people could just enact even one of those, it would be powerful, both. And you'd
Yes, absolutely.
nuclear
Anything more
level.
than 0.
Yes, exactly. As always, you can find a complete transcript of this show and a link to Ben's website by visiting the show notes for this episode. You do this by going to healthyscreenhabits.org, click that podcast button, and find this episode. Ben, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge with the world, because I feel like this is like your professional life and your personal life are merging and creating this supernova. And thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me. I'm very grateful that I get to do what I do.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.